Needed. Caution, of course. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday book launch, and I am super excited tonight. My name is Malika Albrecht, and I am the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. We only take poems that have been rejected elsewhere, so we are open for another few days, the
Oh,
month of
wow.
August.
Thank
So
you for the
yes, don't
reminder.
tell them a lot. Please send us work. Um, send us if you happen to have any rejected poems, send them to us. Tonight we're celebrating with a fellow pressmate from Press 53 and someone whose name I see everywhere with all kinds of fun workshops that I've been intending to take. You can look up the offerings on her website. I'm going to do a brief bio and then I'm going to turn it right over. Shuly Cawood teaches writing workshops, doodles with markers and metallic paint, and is raising 2 poodles and 5 orchids. If it's still true that you're raising the 5 orchids, I'm impressed. She is the author of 6 books, and the most recent one, including something so good it can never be enough. And that came out from Press 53, 2023, and a flash essay collection called What the Fortune Teller Would Have Said, which was the winner of the 2022 Iron Horse Literary Review Prose Chapbook competition. Her work has been published in the New York Times, The Sun, and Brevity. To learn more about Shuly, you can go to her website, shulycawood.com. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank
I'm so excited
you.
for
Thank you so
you.
much for having me. It was wonderful to be invited. I asked to come and you welcomed me, so it was I guess not sure if it was an invitation, it was a begging. But I'm thrilled to be here. I'm going to be reading from, I don't know, with the whole blurry Facebook, I mean Zoom thing. Something so good it can never be enough, which just came out a few months ago. And I'm going to start with a poem that I really enjoyed titling. I used to have a history of not enjoying titling at all. I used to write pieces, poetry, micro memoir, whatever it was, short stories, and I used to hate titling. And I decided to tackle that and become better at it and study titles that I really liked. So I studied far and wide and actually came up with a class to teach on how to title better. And I like to come up with a title that does more than just like, if it's a poem about apples, just says apples. So I want it to say something. So I'm hoping this gives a little bit of setting and circumstance. The title is You're Just About to Leave After Meeting This Guy for a Drink. And I'm going to repeat the title again because it goes right into the poem. You're just about to leave after meeting this guy for a drink. And then he says he wants to order nachos. And you sit there while he points to the sticky menu and you wait for the cook in the back, or maybe not even the cook, but the server himself, or maybe the busser or the dishwasher, or maybe someone back there with no culinary skills, no ability to distinguish jalapenos from green peppers or hothouse from homegrown tomatoes, to scoop some chips that have likely been hanging out under a heat lamp since last night. And they will bunch and crowd into a plastic basket, not even a real woven one, but one of those red ones with squares for holes, and one that has probably held 100 nacho orders and 1,000 greasy fries and too many onion rings battered and dunked too deep in oil. And on top of it all will spread some kind of version of shiny cheese. You sit and wait for it, for what he wants, for that order of nachos to arrive. And when it does, you will take a chip because he'll push them all toward the middle. And this will be the first of so many useless offerings. And you'll take another and then another because you think it's polite when really you won't want any of them, so oversalted and already cold. And it will take you years to understand how long this kind of sitting and waiting can last. The second poem I picked is called How to Be Beautiful. I love running and walking in the morning, and oftentimes I will do it by myself. And a lot of times a poem will come to me, and this one is more written about one of my runs or one of many runs. How to Be Beautiful. Forget what everyone said when you were dark-haired with smooth olive skin, slender arms, strong legs. Life takes everyone's little pretties, slowly or quickly. You used to turn heads. catch whistles, receive secret messages and love letters from men too old, too young, too married, too angry, too unattached, too busy, too unimaginative to understand your beauty was never in your face. Your hair is turning silver now like the underside of maple leaves. You still have strong legs, but now you could give a rat's ass about stockings, high heels. It's sneakers for you, shoes your mother called clunks. You were happiest in t-shirts and sport shorts, and you still run every Wednesday morning before the day has begun, when it is dark and you can forget what people thought of you, what they think now, because you feel the muscles in your legs which are stronger like everything else about you. Your day began a couple of decades ago, which is why darkness doesn't scare you. You feel sorry for the girls who wait at the bus stop, bags of youth heavy on their backs. You run past, faster now, not in speed, but in the way you know how to look forward, not back, how to stop all that yearning for something you only briefly had. Now we're going to see if we can get through this next poem. It's a poem about my mother. I've been trying to keep it a little lighter. Not that this is heavy, but I tend to cry a lot when I'm reading poems to people. When I read them alone, I'm fine, but when there's an audience, somehow I get choked up. So we'll see if I can make it through this. This one is called "My Mother Says She Does Not Know How to Cook." How did you make this? She always asks. A recipe, I tell her. No magic trick, no skill, just buying ingredients, following directions, not varying from what I'm supposed to do. My mother looks in her fridge and pulls out vegetables, slices them, even keeps the stems, sautés them, adds an egg, adds some rice. And what about that can of water chestnuts? That might be good. And is there a tomato in the garden? Oh, there's cilantro out there. Let's add that. When she was 13, she boarded a train from Mexico to the US. She knew no English. There were no instructions for how to become fluent, but she did. How to skip 2 grades or graduate at the top of her class, but she did. How to survive far from her parents, how to sleep alone instead of in the double beds she'd shared with her sisters. She did. No one told her how to measure a person by their honesty and kindness, not their good looks or money, not their empty promises, but she learned. She swears she can't cook, but my sister and I grew up eating well. Beans stewed with onions and peppers and sprinkled with cheese, roasted eggplant or buttered squash or broccoli baked into dishes she concocted to make sense of the kitchen in which she found herself. Now I cook for her, red lentil soup with lemon, yogurt berry pie, broccoli with feta pasta, all from easy recipes. You're so good at cooking, she says, even knowing how to give praise, unwarranted, in heaps, how to make everything sweet. In this next poem, I try to add, sometimes I write a lot of serious poems, and sometimes I try to add a little levity when I'm writing about something serious. And in this collection, I have a poem called "You Are Not a Dog," and I have a poem called "You Are Not a Cat." This is "You Are Not a Cat." You don't think you're so beautiful. You don't preen. You don't expect to be the center of the universe. You don't move slowly. You never scratch things you aren't allowed to scratch. Is there something you're allowed to scratch? You don't ever saunter or sun yourself, lying in light with no cares in the world. You don't stay out at night when you should be home. You don't just disappear. After all, you have responsibilities and expectations to meet. But you put them there, didn't you? You don't arch your back and hiss when you're angry or scared, but sometimes you think that might be easier. You have no claws, but sometimes you think they'd come in handy. You don't know how to chase and hunt, to catch and abolish, but on some days, in some hours, you think maybe you could. My next poem is also one that is serious, but I also added some levity to it, I hope. Not all my poems are true. This one is absolutely true, though. It's called "You Worry Too Much," which I totally do. You worry like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. You worry like it's a first love, unforgettable, hard to shake. You worry like it's a master class you've paid good money to take, so you can't quit now, but sometimes you wonder, who's the master? You worry like it's a march for equality. Teeny and big worries parade together into your hamster wheel brain. You worry about which flight to take, what hour to leave, whether the trip is too long or too short. So what date should you go? Just pick one, your husband says. He knows how things can change, but if you don't try something, you'll try nothing. He knows sometimes you want to try nothing. You worry about cell phone addiction and the recycling bin piled up with single-use plastics and the water spurting too long from the faucet when anyone washes their hands, if they even wash their hands. Why can't people just wash their hands? You worry about your parents and their slowing days, your own slowing days, the pill you have to take at night. You worry one day it will be 2 or 3, or that nothing will work, that one day you won't sleep. Just take the pill, your husband says. If it stops working, you'll deal with it then. His stares of logic to your turnstile of worry. You worry about the neighbor's lost dog never coming home. You worry that someone will steal your dog, even though you never leave her outside if you aren't there to glance out the kitchen window every 2 seconds. You worry when you leave the house she won't be okay, because mostly she isn't, although your husband says mostly she is, and he's probably right because he's a half-full kind of person, and you've always been half empty. No, empty, empty, a pit below the glass sucking all the water out. He says, you can't worry about the dog having a bad day every once in a while. She'll be fine. He means you'll be fine. He means get your act together, but he's too nice to say that. He rubs your back. He fixes all the things you don't worry about because you didn't even know they needed fixing. The drain letting go of water too slowly, the pipe begging for stuffing around its edges, the branch desperate to be sawed off. You wonder about what else needs fixing besides you. You want to know what will happen and when and for how long, and mostly the cost. You read the end of the book before you've begun. You count how many rows to reach the exit window. You take your pill every night, and still you forget that if nothing good lasts forever, that also means nothing bad will. All right. My next poem is I really love, this is one of the things that I talk to my students about when I'm teaching workshops. I run a generative workshop every Tuesday online with Press 53. And one of the things that I'm constantly telling my Tuesday groups is I'm telling them to hone in on a moment if a moment rises to the surface. And so in this poem, I tried to do that. This is about the dog that I mentioned in the last poem. So I tried to hone in on particular moments with her. This is called Poem in Which I Fail to Teach My Dog How to Fetch. I throw the tennis ball. She chases it, grabs it in her mouth, sprints as far from me as possible in our fenced-in yard. She plops down beneath a leland cypress. The day is filled with opposites, moist mulch and dry grass, broken branch and wholehearted effort. Here, I call. I'm using the sweet voice the vet psychiatrist told me to, not the hell no one I prefer. Here, I call again. I use the hand signal, my right palm facing me, beckoning from air to flat against my chest. In my left hand, a chicken-flavored treat. My dog holds the ball in her mouth, blinks at me. Uh-oh, I say. Uh-oh is our neutralizing word, the word the trainer said to use when the dog ignores your command. You're not supposed to keep repeating the command, or else the dog learns only to respond after the 3rd or 4th or 5th time, or in my case, never. Here, I say, do the hand signal, offer the treat. Who wants a treat? Already, I have resorted to pleading. The day is long and light, short in reply. When my husband first brought her home when she was 14 weeks old, I was so overwhelmed by her wildness, whimpers, ignorance of rules, that I had a meltdown on our corduroy couch. One day you'll love her, he said. How do you know? I asked. I know, he said, because I know you. He settled onto the couch beside me, held me in his arms. That saying about love being patient, I suppose it's true. Here, I say, and the day, like any other, fills with light and shadow, weed and flower. Uh-oh, I say. Here, I say. She stares at me. You don't always get a choice about what life brings, what it does not. She spots a squirrel, darts after it, leaves behind the ball that now no one will retrieve. There are 100 lessons she must be trying to teach me, and I have hardly mastered one. And that's all I planned. I thought that would probably take us to 20 minutes, so hopefully it has.
Oh, you did beautifully, and
Oh,
I
thank
love
you.
that last poem. So many. Oh, the chat section is on fire.
Oh,
We can
how
all
nice.
unmute and take a moment just to say, Shuly, thank you. That
Oh,
was
well, thank you
lovely.
all. Thank you all. It's always a gift.
Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
That was amazing. Oh
I
my
got
gosh.
choked up, but I made it through without like
Oh, you did
a
great. And
complete
that's
gushing.
but that's a beautiful thing, I think. I think that when you write really close to the bone, sometimes there's an emotional moment there. It's real. I think we relate to that. There were so many lines, Shuly, that we all wrote at the same time that I don't even
Yeah.
think I can keep up with it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
It was fabulous. I'm trying to see which one there was like three of us in the same. Yeah, is there something you're allowed to scratch? I mean,
Yeah.
three of us at the same time. I was like, it's the last line of that. Holy smokes. And what I like is your sense of humor. We've got an echo going. I think it's you, Cal. Hang on. There we go. That should clear it up.
Like
Nope.
80 degrees in here.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. It oh, I lost my train of thought. But your sense of humor, and I have to say, clearly, what you did to deal with titling, it like gave you super flex because a lot of people were writing in there the title master. I mean, they were fabulous, and
Oh,
I love that
good.
you teach a workshop on that, and that I'm sure there were people that were interested in that, and I know that was something I struggled with as well. Did people have questions? I'm looking back over the chat section and no question is right there. So if you have one, just unmute and feel free to ask, Shuly.
Just to wonder that, something like, what is there that you can scratch? I can't remember the exact line, sorry, but and
Is
you're
there
just talking
something
about a
you're allowed to
cat,
scratch? Yeah.
and then suddenly you're talking about something so much deeper, and that's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. It was fun to write. I love you are not a dog and you are not a cat.
Yes, and
Thank
I
you.
think that you're having fun while you're writing comes through the writing.
Oh, good.
There's something pleasurable about that. But I did want to go back to what Shamala was saying. I mean, you have such spot on, beautiful descriptions, but all these poems have a tendency to pull in and do a twist that is so much deeper than I think people might initially suspect. And I love the surprise of that, of suddenly being a lot more than what I thought. I mean, even going back to the first poem you started with the nachos. I mean, there was so many layers in that are there to ponder. And I think that's so incredibly powerful. I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I was gonna say it's yeah, so many useless offerings. I mean, I loved it. And that
Thank
one
you.
actually three of us did at the same time. So when you write with your process, um, do you have in mind what you want to do in a poem, or are you kind of an explore and find out?
I'm going to explore and find out. To me, that's the joy of writing, is always the exploration. I think my writing process is I have learned over the last few years to really trust what comes into my brain, even if it's a strange thing. I write a lot about my own life. Now, some people always assume that all my poems are all true. I'm like, no, there's a lot of made up stuff, but I don't actually write a ton of like persona poems or anything like that. So when I do write about my own life, I really trust the moment that has obviously settled into my memory, because it'll appear and I'm like, okay, that needs to be written about. I don't know why sometimes, but I just trust it and then I go with it. And I do often write about a moment. I like narrative poems. I really like to hone in on a particular moment or a particular scene, like that nacho thing. That memory has stayed in my brain for many years. I've never written about it until I wrote that poem, and it's been decades. But I was like, that has stayed there for a reason, so let's write about it. But I didn't know I had no idea what the piece would be until it fell onto the page.
And I love that because, that, like I said, it's multi-layered. I mean, there's, um, the whole scene in itself, and then also this feminist awareness of like wasting time with these useless gestures. I mean, I think that that's incredibly powerful.
Thank you.
So that's now, when did you know that this was a book, and did you have it all together, or did you write poems to specifically like move from one poem to another? What was that process like for you?
Question. I never am writing towards a book. So I tend to write and write and write, and then after a while I'm like, I think I have enough. Like, let me count how many are finished. And so then I'll look, and then, I'll have a body of work. And so then I usually will print everything out and say, okay, what fits in this collection and what doesn't? There may be a piece I love and I say, it just doesn't belong here. Sorry, Shuly, got to chuck it. Or there may be something missing. I've written, my first book was a memoir, and I'm trying to think of my other books. Yeah, I had to do this with my essay collection too, is I try to have, it's a poetry collection, is not a novel. It does not have a narrative arc, but I do try to have something that is holding it together narratively from beginning to end somehow. I especially did that with the essay collection, probably more so than the poetry collections. But even so, I kind of look, when I'm putting together a collection of poems, I look at, okay, what kind of fits together? And then I look at what are the different themes going on here? And I don't want to, this might work for some people, but I don't personally like to read a collection like, well, let me put all my cooking poems, and then let me put all my mother poems, and let me put all my breakup poems, or whatever it might be. And so then I try to, include, how they say in when like you're writing a novel, not that I've only written a novel and it was terrible and it's never been published and probably never will, but they say, like, if you're going to include a character, typically at least, you should try to get the characters in at the beginning. So I think of like my themes need to come at the beginning. So my first few poems of the collection line up to say like, okay, here are the different things I'm going to talk about. And then I'll drop in poems about, like, my mother comes up, but I don't have like all mother. I have my background, my Latino background comes into it. My mother weaves into it, but it's not just like all one, like that's section one. I don't like that. I want to come back to it and kind of like, what's kind of the overarching themes and stories going on. So that's how I work to put together a poetry collection.
Oh, I love hearing that. It's fascinating. And Regina just had written, do you find that your poems often follow a theme? So that kind of answered your
Yes.
question, Regina, in maybe how you move through a flow of noticing what the themes are. And for some reason, what I kept getting the image of was, rather than having blocks, there was a softening, that there's a more of a picture or a painting that you're trying to get across that isn't block A, block B, block C. There's a flow. That's interesting.
Yeah, kind of coming back to a theme, and it gets sprinkled throughout. And then, the other one, the second one, gets sprinkled throughout. And I definitely have themes that I write in. And I used to not like that about myself. And then I have all my writer friends are like, yeah, I tend to write about the same subject. And I'm like, I still must have something to say. So I just stopped worrying about it. I was like, that's what I have to say. Why should I write about, like science when I'm not interested in it? Like, I don't want to write science poems or whatever it might be. Like, I'm writing about certain themes, and I obviously still have something I'm working out. Doesn't mean that everybody has to read them. They might just be for me, but I'm still writing about those themes, working something out.
Regina, you kind of sense that listening to Shuly?
Yes.
I thought so.
And I often I'm kind of, as a poet myself, I kind of operate. I feel this little bit of kinship here, because I don't know whether it might have something to do with, like, our background, our collective memory, our, that kind of thing. That if you come from a family or people who were storytellers, you kind of tend to see that in your own writing. It just comes
Right.
out in a lot of ways. Even in my
Yeah.
teaching,
Yeah.
I always operate under this theme. I don't know
Yeah.
why, or it comes like it comes, but it just does. And
Nice.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I
they
love
do
it.
that in art as well. I mean, visual art, like Monet was doing the same areas of the garden and over again. And somebody said something about it, and that was what his interest was. I mean, I think it makes sense to me that oftentimes I'm reworking something from a different angle, or, in essence, writing the same poem differently over and over again.
Right. Right.
Um, and I like that acceptance of that's the experience. I don't know why, but then suddenly it made the nachos poem tie into the one about the least interesting thing about me was my physical beauty. I mean, there's something, there's something being said that resonates or talks to each other
Right.
about what it is to inhabit femaleness. And I
Right.
think that's real and legitimate, right?
Yeah. And I think I appreciate that you said that you noticed that I have, I think of it as different layers in writing. Like there's a surface layer of what's happening, and then I'm talking about something else really, but you could read it all as surface. You could read it all about the nacho. Like she's
Yeah.
really upset about, having to wait for nachos. Okay. Um, but and I appreciate that you see that in my work. It's not something I sit there and try to do. It comes to me, and I think it's because I love reading that work. I love reading poems like that, or even other kinds of work like that have these two layers going on, and I'm like, oh. And so I guess after having, when you read something for so long, I mean, I'm learning more about visual art now in this portion of my life. And like you just learn by seeing things. And so by having read stuff for so long that I love, I'm hoping it's soaking into me and that it's coming out in my work. I mean, that's always the hope, right?
Yeah.
So
And I believe it is, because I also saw in that poem, things about, commercialism and, inauthentic cooking and, calling it Mexican. I mean, there was so many different layers there. I mean, I think you could take that one poem and really, look at it from a lot of different perspectives. And I think that's a fabulous thing. And obviously I believe it has worked, that's the poems that you were drawn to.
mhm.
And I think that, those are the poems that you write. That you could read it this way, very, right here, or
Right.
you could say, this is what else is going on. And I think that's also in a collection, the poems that start to speak to one another start to strengthen that idea of the undercurrents, right? The
Right.
strength of the undercurrents, what's important.
Right. That's the hope.
But the visuals of your descriptions are amazing, and I'm not surprised that you did micro memoir and stuff like, because just even the red basket with the squares, how you described it, I was like, yeah, that image is in my head, and it's
Yep.
like you showed me a picture, but you didn't, because I knew exactly, and I enjoy that. Does anybody have any other questions or thoughts that you wanted to respond back with?
So I want to know what your editing process is like, because I have to learn to walk away and stop obsessing over lines and breaks and all the things.
That is a great question. My editing process is, I wish I could describe it very succinctly. Sometimes poems fall onto the page, like the nacho one. I don't think I tinkered with it much. It just sort of fell. A lot of other poems don't. So what I do in my writing process is I write a poem every day, and some people get surprised at that. I'm like, no, anybody can write a poem a day, because I never said it was a good poem. I just said I wrote a poem a day. So I don't judge it. I'm like, I wrote 5 lines and there it is. good for me. So I write a poem every day. And then the ones that I feel like, oh, this can go somewhere, I put in a folder that's called A Bunch of Hopeful Poems. And so I have this really long document. It's all my 2024 poems, 2023, and I just keep adding to it. But when I like something, I cut and paste it into its own little document that goes into that folder that's A Bunch of Hopeful Poems. And then I typically don't go back to it for a while. It marinates in there somewhere in the back of my mind. And I may come back to it in a week, a month, sometimes many months. And I go back, especially when I'm maybe wanting to send work out. I'm like, okay, what do I have in there? And then I'll go back and read it again with fresh eyes. And having that, as you all know, the time away from it is good, because sometimes I'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I put this in this folder. Or like, that's pretty good. I don't think it needs much. So, and then I just tinker around if it doesn't need much. And if it does need a lot of work, but I still love it, I just keep working on it. But I don't know that I obsess a lot over line breaks or even substance. I think I have created a good instinct for when something is off. I don't always know how to fix it, but like I was working on this poem today, I'm like, this line just isn't working and I have no idea how to fix it. I'll just put it away for a while and I'll come back to it. So I can at least sniff out usually the bad parts of a poem.
Oh, I like the way of putting that. And yeah, I may know it's wrong, but not know how to fix it. But it is
Yeah.
okay to walk away. I mean, I
Oh,
do
yeah.
think sometimes space gives me an opportunity to see what was right there, but I was too close. I was just too
Right.
close in. Thank you for that question, Christy. Well,
Yeah.
it feels like we're heading towards open mics. Let's take a moment just to thank Shuly.
Great.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you
awesome.
all. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It's been a privilege.
Just a reminder, if you would like to join the get the newsletter, go to Shuly's website. I have it put into the chat section. I'll put it in again. To buy the book, you can go to Press 53. Shuly, can people email you via your website for a signed copy?
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a link to the if they would like to purchase it from me if
That's
they go
perfect.
under my website and look under books, and any of the almost all the books I have copies of to mail out.
Putting that in the chat section too, because a lot of times that's more fun to buy directly from the author, the poet, and get a signed copy. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, Erica. I'm really glad you were here. If you wanted to read Erica for open mic, just send me a message and we'll do so. I have Karen up first, who is always graciously my co-host. There you are. And we get to see a postcard, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll show you. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is actually a postcard that I made last year. And I just kind of liked it. And then this year I was getting a little overwhelmed trying to make all the cards and do the poems. And I was like, God, do I have some old ones that would maybe inspire me? Because this year I tried to write in response to my postcards. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. Anyway, so this is the one that I was going to share the little poem with you. And it's just magazine images. I don't know. Can you see it? Yeah.
That is amazing. Yes.
Okay. So that's the postcard. So here's the poem. Whatevs. Peace out to any knot-tied, necktie-wearing, flannel-suited, buttoned-up naysayer. You don't need anybody tying a big black bow around your bonnet. Take your wooden easel, canvas, palette, paints, and brushes out and get yourself set up. Ensconced in fields of giant golden flowers, ponder for however long it might even possibly take, and then do whatever you must do.
Hey, yes. Oh, I love that. And the title was Whatevs.
Whatevs. Whatevs.
Oh, God, please check the chat section, Karen. Yes. I love the artwork in addition to the poem. That's
It's
amazing.
a stupid amount of fun. I'm just going to say it is really fun to make the cards and then put them away and then look and see if they talk to you.
I
Sometimes
just
they
am
do.
amazed that you have so many ideas when I see scraps of paper, I tend to want to, like, if I'm cutting out and making like a vision board, I'm just, yeah, see, I don't see a whole picture. I don't know how to put that together, but that's
I don't
lovely.
either.
I don't, there's
And the
nothing to know.
limits,
You just cut things out that
you're
appeal to
moving
you and then look at them.
instinctively.
Yeah, it's just fun. Like I don't know. I just find things and I'm like, okay, that's weird. I think I'll put those together. And then a lot of them I color. Like I made this kind of pink and blue with color pencils.
Now,
So.
is the back of that a dictionary print? As a
Yeah, so
background?
that actually helps me a lot. I rip page dictionaries. We have a swap shop at our convenience center, the dump where we take our garbage. So it's a little house and people can put stuff they don't want anymore in there. So I'm always grabbing raggedy manuals and dictionaries and map books or whatever. But that helps a lot when you're doing a collage if you just put something that's not a blank piece of paper down first. And a lot of times I'll do the I'll like this is I don't know if that's a dictionary page, but a lot of times you can pull you'll see the random words in the background and that'll make you go to a poem.
It'll jar something.
Yeah.
Well, I
I
love that
love that.
process in
Yeah.
addition to
sometimes I
writing.
draw on them. Sometimes I just glue things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fabulous. I mean,
You're-
that's,
Wow, it's
and
You're
the
really
incredible.
cloud with the
incredible
ear. Oh,
collagist.
It's fun. It's a great poem maker, I think. Right, Laura? Yeah, Laura's doing it. She's doing it with me this year.
Absolutely. I have so much fun with it. And when I visit Kieran, we make postcards together.
Yeah. Open a
Karen's gonna
bottle of
have all
wine,
of us
put
to
on
her
some
house to
music,
make
make
postcards
postcards.
together.
Yeah, come on,
I'm
let's do
coming.
it.
Y'all pick a day, I'll come. Well, we
Anytime.
can do Thursday from we could do it live from Karen's place, her
Oh,
art studio.
Don't
I
tease.
would
We
do
can
that.
do that.
Pick a
Yeah,
day.
it's
I'll bring
fun.
Christy and
Okay.
Regina. We could carpool.
Yeah,
Yes.
yep. Yeah, you
All
have to
right.
spend the night because wine drinking will be involved probably.
Yes.
Hey, I got critters I got to be up at 5 for, so I'll have to really
Okay.
plan that one far in advance. Thank you, Karen. Christy, I'm coming to you, and then we get to hear Laura's postcard at the very last.
Okay. So can everybody hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm going to do a plug for Shuly. I wrote this in one of her Tuesdays just from her prompt, and I got 2 poems in an hour that day. This is one of those, but I'm going to try to get through this one without being emotional. It's just slightly heavy. There was a time when coffee tasted better than it should. Before your voice stilled itself inside the hush of a ventilator. Before I knew 20 ounces of bottled water choked your half-beating heart. Before I looked for wet clouds in your eyes. Before you were never going to be the same. We sprawled across wrought iron chairs. Laughter spilled over the circumference of us. You caught my tip mugged under the green mermaid dotted umbrella, facing an oncoming pedestrian, her feet trying to beat her arms in a race towards the idling sonata. Your pink fingertips danced the tabletop, regaling heart-lived tales. Your pulse oximeter yet to enter our scene. Thank you.
And I was muted. Sorry. I was just going, oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, just the images, her feet trying to beat her arms in a race. And I love that this came from being with Shuly. That is beautiful.
Me too. What an honor.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Inside the hush of a ventilator. Christy, check the chat section.
I
Yeah, the
will.
wet clouds in your eyes stuck with me as well, Karen. Regina, I am headed your way. Let's see. There we go.
Hi, everybody. So lately, I've been having this identity clash. I always thought that most of the discrimination I experienced in my life was directly connected to who I am culturally, ethnically, racially. But in recent years, I guess now, my identity as a woman has kind of come to the surface and revealed itself in poetry. I've been thinking a lot, just, a lot is going on in our society. I've been thinking a lot about hope. And I've been allowing hope to take form, many different forms. And so this poem is actually a poem that I wrote. My aunt turned 89 years old. She has dementia, but she was able to go to a birthday party and dance and, all of that. And this is a tribute to her. It is entitled, Hope is a Black Woman. Hope is a Black woman, a name earned, a title undefinable, a nebulous of magic that wraps itself around the rotting branches of a once flowering tree. Hope pours in life, spreads herself over the failing fiber, and breathes life into it again, slathers it with honey, baby, child. Hope is a cry. Hope is a laugh. Hope is an oracle. Hope is help. Hope is a holder of hurt. Hope is the sentient object foretelling betrayal, burying shame. Hope's mirrors are fickle, reflecting the beauty and the lies told to trick and remind. Hope is a Black woman. Hope is a Black woman, a reinterpreted incantation created on a lonely, broken road to save that ominous day, to save this one too. Invalidated rounds still singing in the air like hope is a Black woman. A God's got this hope. A weeping may endure hope. But we're gonna make it hope. A sit down here hope. Looks like you need to eat hope. I'm not hungry, but you eat hope. A magic money handkerchief hope. A Fannie Lou Hamer hope. A get out the vote hope. He's still your father hope. Keep going to school hope. They can't take it from you hope. Twice as hard hope. Where there's life, there's hope, hope. Hope is a Black woman, a reinvention of life, a pearly smile, a shimmering skin, a cauldron of cocoa butter, a snippet of aloe, a laying on of hands, a firm massage on tired muscle, a soft prayer blown over weary bones. Hope is selfless. Hope is self-full. Hope is recollection. Hope is ammunition. Hope is a home forevermore. Hope is a Black Madonna illuminated. Hope is a Black woman today, yesterday, evermore. Hope is a Black woman. Hope is a Black woman. Hope is a Black woman.
Yes. I'm not gonna be able to hear you read this in public because I'm gonna be embarrassing you going, hell yes. Hell yes.
Fire.
Oh,
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. No, I mean, I want you to send this to our future president.
Right. Well, yeah, because she's in there too.
Yes. Yes.
A lot
I
of
mean,
people
there's
in
so,
there. There are a lot of people in
that's what I
there.
was gonna say. It's a whole
Yeah.
stew of people. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a whole mess of people.
Yeah,
Are you
and
gonna
it,
read
and,
it?
it, and I'm and it is hope as a Black woman, but I think women, period, much of that can be applied to who we are and what we've had to do,
Yes.
save the day.
Yeah. Made me think of my great grandmother who, lived to be 107. It reminded me of,
Mhm,
watching her
mhm, mhm.
and all that she had seen
Yeah,
in her lifetime.
right,
I mean, I was alive when women were first allowed to get a credit card without their husband's permission.
right.
That's not that long ago,
Yep, yep.
you know?
All of
So
that.
yes,
Yeah.
that's why I'd be out in the audience going, hells yes. You'd be like, shh, hold it. Where's the mute button?
Yeah.
See, so this is why our open mic is fire. It's because y'all are here. Shamala, coming to you.
Sorry, where did the window go? Um, we were talking about themes earlier, and I am making peace with it, but it feels like all my work is about the same subject, but you know how that goes, right? You all know how that goes. So um, this is again about trying to live on two sides of the planet at the same time, or feeling my heart pulled between the two here in my home country. It's yeah, it was to a prompt actually about imaginary places. So it's called And Then Again, Joy. Which door is home, I ask, and answer myself, every one. One of me is certain, sees options as multiplied joys, the other more aware of but and painful choice. Every door is a portal in this house of memory. Open one. There is the city of my birth, my grandfather's garden, a swollen river, schoolgirls from long ago in white uniforms that never stayed white, stained with years. Hug them. Close the door. Move 2 steps, or possibly 2 airports, or half a planet and 10,000 steps at each airport, hurrying between gates and decades. Open another door. Here are seals now. Raucous cries and shrieking of seagulls, also diving pelicans and shingle, shell, sand between my toes. Surf roars, white caps, foam. 2 more steps. Or back, return to that first door, open it again. Close eyes and wish before opening. And there it is. Monsoon rain as fierce and generous as any ocean. Shy orchids and friends again. Relatives even. Who shall I speak to next? Who call to this door? This magic portal, exile soul's balm of imagining. Perhaps a cousin I shared a crib with more than half a century ago. And her name is Joy. And so is this game's name, this moving between doors, joy, and also anguish, and then again, also joy.
Gorgeous. Ooh, there was a ton, yeah, how tenderly and reflectively read. I think that is part of the experience, Regina. I love that. I mean, so many of the images stayed, and I like your themes, Cheryl, and your poems. And I think,
Thank you.
yes, that you have a specific experience when you read it, but I have an experience, even though I haven't experienced what you have with this, that same kind of feeling of which door is home and the pull between opposing things, and then anguish and joy. I think it works. Cal, I saw that you came back in, so I'm coming to you. Gotcha. Make sure you're unmuted.
You mean that problem was all me? I thought it was everybody else. Anyway, this is my second take on this particular subject. There was a mention of that before, and it's I revised it a lot today. I hadn't really thought it was done at all, and I had to read it today because of current news. So let me get it in front of me here. It's called Arlington National Cemetery. Been here too many times, but no, one time especially, for the young lieutenant, married just long enough to have 2 baby girls, one a year old, the other not yet born. Our visit to this national graveyard to be united with what was left of him 55 years later, to finally find out what happened, that he was a great hero, as it turned out, in 1950, in the first battle of the Korean War. At the bottom of the Chosin Reservoir, Second Lieutenant William Kempen was awakened at 5 a.m. by a Red Chinese surprise attack. A battle-hardened 300,000 previously hidden army. Billy chose to lead his platoon to attack in summer uniforms, Korea still being far into the Pentagon, and air frozen to 20 below and filled with bullets. 20 red Chinese to his comrades 1. They held off the assault just long enough for a company of men to escape, to survive, while his platoon all died to lie in North Korean soil ever since. To be with his daughters in 2005, when he was finally laid to rest in Section 60 with all the other lieutenants, near the dead of other wars, was closure of a sort, though 55 years too late. Billy's West Point classmates and one survivor, a sergeant named Joe, who had lost a foot to frostbite, was there to thank Billy's girls, my wife and her sister, and tell the story of how his life was saved, since Mao's Red Army took no prisoners, burning the captured alive, stuffed into troop transport vehicles. For 55 years, they had thought their birth father had ended his life like that. That's it. Thank you.
Oh, wow, Cal. Check the chat section because a lot of us were really resonating. Very powerful
Good.
on the
Okay.
details, and been here too many times to be reunited or with what was left of him. Wow. And yes, it's in the news. I'm glad that you brought this poem out. Laura, I am coming to you, and you are our final one. We get to see postcard.
Can I screen
Oh,
share?
hang on. Yeah, let me ask you, let me get you to be co-host, and that way you can screen share. Give me a
Oh,
minute
okay.
as a multitask, which is not my strong point. Here we go.
Okay.
I think I've got you.
I have 2, but it'll be really quick. Can you see this?
Not yet. Oh, now we can. You've done it.
Okay.
You've got it. Good job.
Okay, this is a really short one. And I titled this Hold the Past. I use maps as background in addition to dictionary pages at times. And this is a short one. How we tell our history depends so much on the color of the hand that holds it. So that's that one. If I can remember how to stop sharing without messing up. And then this other one. La, la. This collage I called Lost Chickadee. Sometimes the terrain looks all wrong. Can you see this one?
I'm not seeing it yet.
Hang on a second. I don't think I'm sharing this right. Share. Pick it. I think I just called it up and then didn't hit share.
There you go.
There we
You've
go.
got it.
This is
You've
called
got it.
Lost Chickadee.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Sometimes the terrain below looks all wrong. And like an accidental bird, you light on the nearest branch, look around and decide that just for now, this can be home. So yeah, my
Wow.
poems are really short because I
Yeah,
have to
I'm
make them on a
glad.
postcard.
Yeah, but I love being able to see them. And that first one was a wallop. I mean, that was just.
Yeah, I did that one and I thought, what am I going to write? So I really do try to write to the actual image on the postcard. So
Yeah.
I've seen that. Haven't I seen that picture? But where'd you find the picture?
it was from Our State magazine, and that was a couple. I think they were business owners, and
Right.
I don't remember where now.
Mhm.
But I cut the handout of a different picture and
It's great.
cut their picture out and was like, okay, let me see what I can do with this.
Well, I'm glad that that worked its way into a poem. And I also, that second one with just for now, this can be home. Very powerful. It does inspire me to try the postcard thing, because I think that's I like that mix.
You
Yeah,
know,
I
if
really
you
like
are
writing
interested-
ekphrastic stuff, so it kind of works. Yeah.
You know,
Back and forth.
your first poem reminds me of this proverb. I think it's Zimbabwean, and it says, "Until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always get the glory."
Yes.
Yeah.
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 It's one of my favorite ones. Yep.
Yep.
I don't know why that made me think of another one that I grew up with. When the elephant fights, it's the grass that gets trampled.
Oh.
My parents used to say that one a lot. Well, guys, it was amazing to be in y'all's company. And Shuly, thank you for bringing the fire and starting us off today. And I just really enjoyed that. If you did want to connect and get a book, please go to Shuly's website. I'll put it in the chat section. Easy to remember though, ShulyCawood.com. Thank you all for reading for Open Mic, for creating community.
Great.
I'll see you next week.
Thank you, Malika.
Thank
See
you,
ya.
Shuly. Thank you,
That was
Malika.
fabulous. I loved hearing the readings, and fabulous titles too. It was just so good. Now I want to
Every
do
week.
postcards too. So
All
Yeah,
right, we're
every
gonna have
week,
a
Shuly.
postcard party. We're gonna do it. We'll
Do it.
Yeah.
Definitely. I love the idea of a postcard party.
Yeah.
I'll be there in a hot second.
It's fun.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, be well.
thank you.
Next week.